Welcome back, the Rice Unfiltered podcast. Stay tuned. Coming up here in just a bit, we have Justin Emil, Rice golf coach in his 15th season. They have been on a great run recently. I'm sure you'll enjoy that chat coming up in a little bit here at the Patterson Center. Remember, like us, subscribe, all that good stuff. YouTube and Apple and Spotify. You can watch us, you can listen to us, all the good things. Rice on a bye week this week, but that doesn't prevent us. I asked Coach a few weeks ago, hey, do we still want to do this during the bye week? And he said, yeah. So, obvious elephant in the room would be that UTSA game.
Yeah.
How's the team doing right now, and how are you doing right now after that one? Because I know that was an especially tough one.
Yeah, it was. Here, we're 48 hours removed, and it's. I use the phrase "short memory" a lot, and when you reflect on it, you know that it's a moment in time, but it's a moment in time that you're not proud of, and you didn't put your best foot forward, and it's important to answer those questions on why. It's important to dig into trying to figure out how did that happen Saturday, the things that you can control, right? Because there's things in that game that you have no control over, right? That whether it's hey, you go through 4 quarterbacks. We're warning up a kid who's not in the quarterbacking room anymore, just in case we need somebody to take a snap. Lukas, who's our 4th guy in, is a kid who really hadn't practiced in 2 weeks. He's been more than that, maybe rehabbing from an injury, and so things you can't control that. So I think it's important to look at the things you can control, address those, learn from it, and then move on. Right? It's certainly not a Saturday that I don't think anybody envisioned. I thought we had a really good week of prep. I thought we were prepared. And, when the train got off the tracks, we couldn't get it back on the tracks. And it seemed, as the train got off the tracks, it seemed to keep heading towards the woods or a different stop. And, that happens. And, we'll learn from that. We'll grow from it. We must, and we'll be better. There's no doubt we'll be better the next time we step on the field.
How are the quarterbacks now from the health standpoint?
Yeah.
As much as you know right now, I know it's still fresh, close to the game. Do you know anything at this point?
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot. Any more new situation, right? I think we learned a lot early in the weeks, just following the game. That 48 to 72 hours, we learned a lot as far as significant of injuries, time frame, and so not quite there here on a Monday morning to really speak about any of those. We'll wait and see. How about that? We'll hold our breath, wait and see.
What the big positive, I did want to hit that before we talk about some other things and move on. We have a lot of other things around the program and the bye week to talk about, but Daelon and Alexander had a tremendous game. Yeah. It was the longest non-touchdown run in 2 years. I had a 57-yarder that set up that score, but what have you seen from him? And it just seems like he getting back in the mix of things. And I know Quentin started early, but then Daly comes in and does phenomenal.
Yeah, well, Quentin's banged up, so we had a game plan to limit him anyway, and then that became quicker to limit him than originally thought, right, because of his injury, which we think he's going to be fine for as we come out of the bye week. But Daelon really. It's had some really good moments for us already this year. And Saturday, I really thought we saw the best so far of him, right? Which is great for us, right? A football team that really wants to start their offense downhill to get that going, right? You'd like to see what that game looked like offensively had Chase not gone down, right? Had we had our full complement of people offensively. We're down, really 3 offensive linemen going into the game, had another injury during the game. Landon's still not back, right? One of our best perimeter guys. And then, so a lot of young guys getting taste for the first time. And so seeing a guy like Daelon step up was really, I'm proud of him.
A guy that's come so far, too. He started off with a bang before you were here, but it seems like he has put in the work, and I talked to him a little bit in the offseason, early part. He was at the presser a few weeks ago. He's put it together, and he is running with his hair on fire, his pants on fire.
Yeah, he had a different mentality Saturday, right? I always say running backs they're not a whole lot different from other positions at the time. I mean, there's hot and cold days. Some days they see the gaps, some days they miss them. It's okay, right? And Daelon has had a few moments in these last couple of weeks where he was disappointed maybe a little bit, and that he maybe missed some things and learning from. So to see him get his confidence back is huge for us moving forward, right? We love our complementary running backs, and I think when you see one lose their confidence a little bit, right, you want to see him get it back, and you saw him get that back Saturday.
A couple field goals mixed in there, but any other positives that you can take out of that game?
Well, when I watch the game holistically, right, I think there's a lot of missed yards out there, a lot of missed opportunities. We'll start on the offensive side. We got free. We got past them. We got some open shots downfield. We just missed on one or two. Then we had a protection breakdown, and then we had a quarterback injury carousel that kind of prevented us. But we talked about growing that phase of our offense. That's their man. I mean, so. And I was proud of the guys that stepped in on that side. I mean, we went to the game incredibly banged up, a lot of stars out. And we go down the field that first drive, get a field goal, put a drive together, then Chase gets hurt, and then we kind of regroup a little bit, and then we put another drive together with a third quarterback. And so I am proud of those guys who stepped in. It wasn't always easy, didn't always look good, but you're talking about guys who are getting meaningful reps for the first time in a very hostile environment. And then, defensively, right, we got some guys back, but, getting the rust off a little bit. Getting the rust off, and it looked like that at times, and that's understandable. And and we got some guys that are trying to step into some new roles on that side of the football as well. And so I think finding that chemistry will be really important. And I think when they put it all together, and when I mean they, UTSA on that side of the football, which listen to their coach, they finally got all their pieces in place back from injuries, and they put it all together. I think they're a tough assignment for any defense. And, so at the end of the day, there are positives to take away, but there's a lot more things we can learn that we will need to grow from, and we will. I say that without hesitation to everybody, that we'll be a much better football team when we step on the field, and we needed to get to this bye week. I thought we looked tired Saturday night in the tough moments. So we'll peel back and we'll look at everything we're doing. Like, how do we keep our guys' legs fresh? How do we build a schedule that fits them through a tough football season? We won't hide from any of those things as we try to figure out the right formula now heading to the back half of the season.
There are a couple big plays there in that first half that anybody watching would remember. The Chibi Wajuaku ejection, and then the Drew DeVilliers hit. Now, this is my commentary. I've said this in past shows when we had Coach Bloomgren. This is my interpretation of it. This is not Coach. This is me, Mr. Heath, voice of the Owls. There were different consistencies with how those were called by the officials. One was buzzed in for targeting. Obviously, it's against Rice, and it doesn't go any output of the game. It doesn't make a difference with the game. But your interpretation of it, and because you mentioned on the broadcast with Jason, I thought I'd follow up now that it's been a couple days. Did you have any review? Is there a process with the officials to figure out why they call certain plays? That's a long-winded way, and I apologize, but I wanted that context before to ask how you saw it, and then did you get any feedback on the interpretation of those controversial calls?
Well, and I said this Saturday night. I got feedback, really kind of in the moment, with Drew, especially heading into halftime, and they gave me an explanation that was correct. I mean, how they saw it and how they viewed it in the replay, and that's all we can ask for is that we get an explanation, and they did. Right, I thought they communicated with us well. It doesn't really matter whether I agree or disagree. They reviewed it. They followed the protocol. They're trained to see it the exact ways they see it. And at the end of the day, that's football, right? And in all those instances, right? And they happen every game. And some games the breaks go your way, and some days they don't. And we got to turn ourselves into a program that those breaks, those decisions don't impact our game so much. And I think, when you're a growing program, you're trying to establish yourself, it's easy to let those moments impact you and become a bigger situation than maybe it needs to be. And maybe that was part of the problem Saturday. Maybe we allowed that to become too much of the narrative during the game, whether our players or our staff, I don't know. But, at the end of the day, they gave me an explanation, and all that made sense to me. And they're trained to do that, and I appreciate their communication with me on that. I really do.
And Chibi served that second part of the game in the locker room, so he is good to go for UConn, correct?
Yeah, he is good to go for UConn.
Okay.
So we'll get Chibi back, and I feel for Chibi there, right? Because the rule has been modified and changed through the years, and it's just tough, right? And there's nothing flagrant about what he did. It was just you can interpret it the way they interpret it, and I feel bad for him, and it was a big loss for us, right? It's a position we're a little thin at right now. And so losing him in that moment defensively, one of our better pass rushers, is impactful in that game. And so I felt for Chibi right then. But holistically through the whole thing, you breaks come and go your way. But you got to figure out how to make more breaks yourself, right? Mm-hmm. As a program, right? We want to be that program where those outside influences don't impact our game, like we impact the game, and that's the message that we talk about daily.
There was also the incident with Crump. Any comment on that? What happened, and any other things to say about that?
Well, what I would tell you is that as a program, we've addressed it. We're addressing it. I won't get into the details of the decisions that we've made here. But just for the privacy concern of all parties. But it's been addressed. It's unfortunate. That's not indicative of our program. I apologize to the officiating crew. That should never happen. There's no room for that anywhere in our sport. There's no room for it anywhere here at Rice, and it's been addressed.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the bye week here, you take that deep breath. You're telling us, I think, last week and at the presser that, hey, the bye week came when it comes. You're not complaining, but nursing some of those injuries, and now you're taking that time off. What do the guys do? What do you do? I know you still have practices, but how refreshing is it to have the bye week at the time it's coming, and how do you handle that?
Well, so I'll speak first. We'll handle it like what it needs to be. We need to rest our guys. We need to reset ourselves, right? So I use those words a lot this week. How do we reset, and then how do we grow coming out of it, right? So how do you rest your guys, get healthy? How do you reset the program for this back half of this season, and then how do we grow as we get ready for UConn? And that will be the focus. And what I told our guys last night is that at some point in this week, they need to do something for themselves. They need to do something that doesn't involve football. They need to do something that is outside of this building, because it swallows you up. And so I think there'll be better football players, better people, better student athletes if they can dive into that. And that may be something, listen, maybe they go to the movies for the first time. I'm having the captains over to my house to eat dinner Wednesday night, right? So I look forward. I know some of the coaches are doing the same for position groups, right? So I think those are really good moments for a program. I think those are things you have a little more free time in bye weeks to do that, and I'm excited for our guys that get that. And we have no control over where the bye week is. Obviously, we'd like to have had it a couple weeks ago, but we didn't get that choice, and so we'll need to do our very best to make every use we can of this bye week specifically as we head to the back half of the season.
Yeah, you have 4 straight home games.
Yeah.
I'm not a schedule historian, but in my time here, I don't remember that many. I know it happens at some programs, but with the 2 bye weeks mixed in there. So it's like this tale of opposite spectrums here.
It is. That's right.
It's wild the way it broke down.
I think we've earned it.
Yeah,
yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we earned it. That's what I tell people. The start of this season and the four road trips, right? That we've endured. It's what the scheduling formula came out to, and it is what it is. But that's tough on a young program that's trying to establish themselves. And so now that we get here, like having these 4 home games, I think are huge. I want our crowds to come back out, right? This is still a very good football team, right? We'll put the wheels back on, and we'll figure out how that happens Saturday. But that Saturday we talked about last night, we need to put that in a vacuum, isolate it, figure out what were the mistakes, what went wrong there, how do we correct those things, how do we address the things we need to address, and then get back to playing the good football that we were playing for weeks and weeks leading up to that.
Mm-hmm. So the big news came down that coach has been named as a Hall of Famer at his alma mater, the Longwood Lancers.
Correct.
Did I get that right? Yeah, I thought I was deep in the brain recesses. So, Hall of Famer now. I know the induction comes later on.
So I've been told. I think it'll be somewhere in January, February, somewhere during basketball season, outside of football season.
So don't have to juggle that during the season. Yeah. And Coach and I talked about this for context before the game, because it just came out, and I asked him about my lead. That's unique. Now it's been a few days. What does that mean to you to be a Hall of Famer at a place that's so dear to your heart?
Well, I'm honored first, right? And I think what it's done more than anything is it's allowed me to kind of reflect back on my time at Longwood, right, which I have such dear memories. Remember my days with my college coach and my college roommates and my teammates, and I think that's what makes all this special. It kind of brings back all those relationships, which you're still close to people. I still talk to some of my teammates, not all of them, obviously, but I talked to my coach a couple weeks ago before the announcement came out. He messaged me just about every game still, but it just opens up that avenue to have more deeper conversations because something like that is announced. And that's what I've enjoyed. And there's so many people that go into that, right? For each of us that has that opportunity to be acknowledged, right? You know that, man, nothing ever happens by yourself, right? Your teammates, your coaches, your family. My wife, though, who wasn't my wife at the time, was my biggest fan in college, right? And so, those games, she was the only person in the stands. I mean that, right? A February baseball game is no fun in Virginia. By the way, it could be snowing. It could be 32 degrees. And literally there were multiple games where, my dear Chrissy, who wasn't my wife at the time, but was my girlfriend, she would be the only one in the stands with maybe Coach Bolding's wife, right? They weren't, sometimes sitting together, but most of the time not, because the weather's just too bad for anybody to be there. So you're just so grateful for people like that who supported you, my mom, my dad, right? Everybody who was a part of that journey. I think this moment allows me to reflect and be just so much intentional about being grateful for them. Mm-hmm. I think I've always been grateful, but having the opportunity to say thank you again for other reasons, it's a great thing to have that, and I'm honored and blessed and very grateful for Longwood. Thank you.
And for context, for those that don't know, it was in baseball. Coach was not the star in the gridiron on the diamond like we documented and some other fun stories in the past. And you brought up a name I had known, tried to be a big baseball fan, but Michael Tucker was on that team with you. So you're modest. You say, hey, he was hitting 3-hole. He gave me a lot of fastballs to hit. So there's some talent on that roster, Coach.
It was a talented group. We always say we were kind of maybe one pitcher away from winning a national championship that year. We made it to the semifinals of the World Series, and I'm honest to say this. I think one of the big reasons I was drafted by the Royals is because of Michael Tucker, right? And Michael was the best pure hitter I've ever been around, I've ever seen. And he was our four-hole hitter. I was our 3-hole hitter. And I saw a lot of good pitches because Michael Tucker batted behind me. And a lot of scouts, right? There were scouts at every practice. There were scouts. He was the number 1 draft pick. There were scouts at every game. And so, as a young guy, you grow up dreaming of playing your sport forever. And, being a football, baseball guy, right, I knew I wanted to be on sports forever. And you wanted to play one of them as long as you could. And so baseball allowed that for me. And then, then you could kind of see I had a brother who got drafted before me, an older brother.
Wow. Right.
So 3 years before I got drafted, he got drafted by the Rangers. So now you're starting to say, well, yeah, this is possibility. And then you play on a dynamic collegiate team with a dynamic player. And once again, what goes into a career, whether it's my career or even our players here that you coach now, so many people around you impact your journey. And I hope one of the lessons that our players will learn from me is that we don't do anything by ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. We're a product of everyone around us. And if we can tap into that as a resource, we're going to make ourselves better while we make our team better.
And I did not go to Rice. It's a compliment when people ask me, hey, did you go to Rice? I did not go, but I'm a small school guy, and Longwood being a smaller school. How did that shape you and form you? Obviously, your athletic prowess, your identity, but how did that mold you and part of your identity and your coaching identity?
Well, I'll start kind of with my college coach, Buddy Bolding, who's in quite a few Hall of Fames himself. He's in the Virginia Hall of Fame. He's in Longwood's Hall of Fame, as he should be, the winningest baseball coach in the history of Longwood. Took two groups to two different levels of College World Series. Pretty amazing. And you know, I always said he coached baseball like football. You know, he was very intense, very emotional, very passionate, and he was an aggressive. You know, we won with our bats, right? He had a philosophy. He didn't have enough money to always recruit the best pitchers, but he wanted to surround the program with hitters, and thank goodness I was one of them. And then he developed hitters, and you know, so though I went a different path in my coaching, and there was a moment in time where I you know, there was a consideration of me going to Longwood to coach baseball with him when I was much younger, right before I really got my first head football job. But I was already too entrenched in what I wanted to do with football and loved it. And I'm blessed that he's followed my career. But there are things that every day I know that I run a program, philosophy, vision, my approach, that was impacted by Coach Bolding. And I think the biggest thing was his love for the game, his love for his players, and the family approach that he had to it, you know. And I'm excited. I'm actually there's a Longwood podcast, like a podcast we're on today. That now I'm going to be on that tomorrow.
Okay.
I waited for the bye week, you know, but I'm excited for that. And you know, I know Coach Boandal, he may jump on the podcast. I'm not real sure, and he's retired now. But I do. I draw things from him as I have so many people that have been a part of my journey.
So a few games left in the season, obviously a lot more episodes here, but as we sit right now, what are your feelings about the rest of the year? Even the schedule trends, we talked about it being at home, but with the staff, what's the mood? And obviously the bye week will determine a lot of that, but.
Yeah, well, you know, when you go into a bye week, there's a couple thoughts, right? You know, if things are you're healthy and things are rolling, you kind of don't want your bye week, right? But if there needs to be a reset, you're ready. You need a bye week to get that reset, and we've needed that. Not because I didn't think we were playing good football. I thought we played good football at Navy for 3/4 of the game, right? You know, Florida Atlantic kind of up and down, right? You know, last week not at all. And part of that is the health, the well-being of the roster, the youthfulness of the roster, the depth of the roster. And when you leave camp and you head into a 7-game stretch, it's hard to address any of that until you get your first break. And so it is what it is, but we desperately needed this, right? And momentum's not, you know, we didn't come in riding a high horse here, right? I think that goes without saying. But I'm so excited to have this so we can work on those things, getting healthy, developing a young roster, and growing the depth. Because you can't grow it by game planning each week. You really can't, because you know, then you're throwing guys into the fire. You know, let's take PJ Creighton. I am incredibly proud of PJ Creighton, and people, you know, who watched the game Saturday understood, man, we put him in a tough situation. He's a freshman quarterback. We're on the road at UTSA. You know, got his feet wet early when we knew Chase went down, just so we'd be ready, you know. And then we got Drew in the game. Then Drew gets hurt, so now PJ's in there full time. And, you know, we getting to a bye week and having more time with him to prep him, because you're prepping those other guys for game situation. It's hard to prep that quarterback that's down that list, down the depth chart for game situation when you're game planning from day to day. So the bye week gives you that. Desperately needed that. Looking forward to doing those things with this group.
Hey, this is a good bye week question too. With the freshman eligibility rule, how does that help them in the bye week get some extra reps now, but also you kind of can map that out the rest of the season, right? If I know you're not going to force it, I get that,
right.
But you have a lot of young guys that could still. You saying that about PJ made me think of it. You got a lot of guys like that where the game can slow down a little bit. Coach.
You hope so.
Yeah.
Right. And once again, I think both sides of the football are a little different situation, right?
Yeah.
Meaning older defense, right? Younger offense. But if you watch Saturday, you saw at one point in the first half, you saw freshman quarterback, freshman receiver, freshman running back, freshman slot. You know, you saw multiple redshirt freshmen playing up front on the offensive line. And what now you hope that turns into is now the game slows down next time they're on the field, right? And then over time the game slows down, and now, you know, as we develop the program, they remember what that Saturday felt like, so that doesn't happen again, you know. And as you think about the rules and how do you help your freshmen. You get 4 games and still hold their eligibility, right? There's legislation out there that I do believe, I won't say holistic, that will be passed that will probably do away with that, meaning they'll just go to 5 years eligibility. There won't be any of that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know yet. It's out there, though. My gut says that will pass. So we don't overly think about that. We more, when the opportunity arises to get young guys experience, whether it's through injury or the opportunity comes, it's important to get them experience. And we will continue to look that way.
Hey, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. It could have been, we've never done a show like this on the bye week, not for any one person's decision, but we're like, hey, let's keep doing it.
Yeah.
And thanks for doing this could have been a tough situation, but no surprise you handled it. Thank you so much for doing this.
No, JP, I appreciate it, and I appreciate our fans. And I leave the podcast by saying, hey, our program without question is moving in the right direction. I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the up and coming UConn game. I look forward to putting our much better foot forward out there, and I know our guys feel the same way, our staff feels the same way. Go Owls.
Yeah, we'll preview Rice Fight. We'll preview those Huskies coming up here next week. Stay tuned. Coming up next, talk a little golf. Any not during the season? Any golf?
No.
Justin Emil?
I put my okay. I love you having Justin on. He deserves to be on, right? What they're hitting it, aren't they?
Yeah.
I love it. It's outside of my family and my faith and my job of football, my passion, my secondary passion is golf. Love it. I'm a pretty good golfer, but I don't touch my sticks from mid-July till it's usually February, right? February, once that second recruiting phase ends, February is a good golf month. I can get out a little bit, now the sun sets earlier, I hate that, but I love the game of golf. I watch it on TV. But playing it, I only get a couple months where I get to really swing it, but when I get those times, I enjoy it.
You open up a new avenue. We can fill some other time when we have a time later on. We're not
No
talking
doubt.
football about that.
We can talk golf.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the time.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Dunlevie family at football coach Scott Abell of our Rice House. Stay tuned. Coming up next, the aforementioned Justin Emil. We'll talk some Rice House golf. It's a Rice Unfiltered podcast. Welcome back on the Rice Unfiltered podcast. You know this man, Rice golf coach in his 15th season, Justin Emil, joining us. How are you doing?
Doing good, JP. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Coach was educating me during the break about some golf podcasts that he listened to. He's got a penchant. And do you remember, I forget which staff meeting it was before or if it was Tommy's introduction even. It's like, hey, I want to do some podcasting stuff. It only took 2 years, but here we are, right?
Patiently waiting, but yeah, excited to be on here and honored to be able to talk to all the Rice Owl fans and tell them a little bit about our golf program.
Yeah, let's start with that. Here in the now, we're going to get into a lot on the roster and just Rice great golfers in the past, but just a back-to-back tournament wins, first time that's ever happened at Rice. What's gone into the recent hot stretch and discuss this recent good turn here?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. It's been a really exciting time for sure for our team, just breaking all kinds of records. But really it started a couple years ago with some players that we had that really left a good legacy. Jay Kirchstorfer, Rogov Chug, Blake Benson, Nick Lee, just some guys that came in and just were great team guys and really helped set the culture of our team. And last year we actually had a pretty good team and we accomplished a lot as a program, but couldn't quite get over the hump, especially in the spring semester. And so whenever we came back this year, we added a couple new players, but kind of had the same sort of mindset in practice, and had some guys come in with some strong words about how we want to approach this season, and a new assistant coach, just a lot of things that really helped us get over the hump so far this year, and just approaching every tournament, going in there to win. And we had a little bit of a dip in the fall. We played poorly in New Mexico, played okay in our first tournament in Louisiana, shot 16 under. So definitely saw that we had some game, and then had a bad tournament in New Mexico, and it really got everybody's attention. It was almost like a punch in the face a little bit, and really gave us as coaches an opportunity to really harp on the things that we need to do to be successful on the golf course, because we hit the ball really well. We've got a great ball striking team. I would say our ball striking is as good as anybody's, but when it comes to the scoring part, wedges, short game, putting, we really needed to put some emphasis on that. And right after playing poorly in New Mexico, we showed up at the Bayou City, our home golf tournament at Westwood Golf Club, and just blew everyone away and shot 25 under par. And we did all the things that we did poorly in New Mexico well. We struck the ball well, just like we did in New Mexico, but we chipped the ball well, we putted well, and we kept the golf ball in good position off the tee and on the greens. And so, yeah, they showed what they could do at the Bayou City, and then got right back out there at Trinity Forest and did it again. So, yeah, pretty exciting.
And set the tournament record up in Dallas, right?
Well, we set the record for our lowest round to par at the Bayou City tournament, our home tournament. So we shot 25 under par there, and the second round we shot 15 under, which was our lowest single round in the history of our program in 95 plus years of Rice golf, which was really exciting. On a tough setup, it wasn't easy. That's there was rough. I set the hole locations and I made them really tough. And, our guys were, they don't ever see it like that. The greens were fast, and they played really well. And then we went to Trinity Forest a little less than a week later and shot 32 under par and beat that stroke to par record by 7 shots. And so we just keep on breaking records. And, we didn't even have our best stuff in Trinity Forest. We had a couple mistakes in the first round, so we could have shot a lot lower. And so that's, really exciting to see that the team has enormous potential this year.
What's the buzz like on a ride back down I-45 when you have that kind of victory and you're chatting about it with the coaches and the team? You have such a small roster, but that had to have been a great feeling. And since riding that high, you got to go out there and do it again. But just what's that been like since then?
Yeah, really when you coach 18 to 22-year-olds, their sort of next thought after playing is, where do we eat, coach? And Lukas had played the best, so I said, Lukas, it's up to you. You choose where we're going to dinner. And I thought maybe he'd pick, steak or something like that. He picked Raising Cane's. And so we go to Cane's in Waxahachie, Texas on the way back from Dallas and just get a bunch of chicken fingers. And, the guys were pumped. I think the first thing they wanted to know is, what do you think our ranking's going to be, coach? And I'm like, guys, it doesn't really matter. Like, we're 4 tournaments into the season. We still got 7 tournaments after this. What's important is what we do on a daily basis, what we have right in front of us. But they're really excited. They're excited and they're starting to believe that they can win. And, our goal this year is to make nationals. And that's, as far as we can go and then see what happens after that. But I definitely think we have the team to make it this year, and that's where we're headed. So we've got big expectations this year. But it's what we do in the moment daily that's going to make us get there.
I don't want to start any fights, but it's no slaw, extra fries, right?
Yeah. Well, I like the slaw, but they go for the caniac, which is the as much as you can get in a box.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't argue with what works, though, so I'm not going to.
And I'm from Mississippi, so I always get the sweet tea for sure.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah,
we can agree on that one.
Of that.
You mentioned a few things there. Might as well continue with Lukas, just the role, Lukas Boandal, the role he's been on. I know you were telling me pre-show, just you knew this was, you never know it's coming, I guess. You could see the makings of it in the past, but just discuss the run he's been on. And did you see a lot of this coming with his acumen for the game? But it seems like he has taken it to another level now.
Yeah, I mean, Lukas is a unique guy. He took a gap year. So I started talking to him in 2019, and then we weren't able to really get him to Rice until the fall of 2022. And in that span of a gap year, he actually did military service in Austria, where he's from. And so he learned some valuable life lessons joining the military there, and it's required as a citizen of Austria. And so he served his time there for several months in the summer before he got to Rice. So he's a very mature young man, very organized, very driven, and is willing to do whatever it takes for him to ultimately pursue a professional golf career after Rice. His first 2 years at Rice, it took him a little bit of time to sort of get adjusted. He still was a solid 3-man for us and played a lot of good rounds for us, but also would have a couple rounds here and there that we would have to throw out with that non-counting score, which in our sport we keep the 4 low scores and we kick out the high score that day or that round. So anyways, but Lukas, he was always a staple in the lineup his first 2 years and averaged somewhere around 73, 74. And then last year, 2024-25 season, he came in and something was different. He just, right out of the gates, won the first tournament, was shooting, rounds in the mid-60s in qualifying and in tournaments, and just had a great fall semester for us in 2024, and then really hasn't looked back. He's been so consistent. And if you asked him, he hadn't played his best really spring of 2025 all the way into the last summer. He played DP World Tour event in Europe, which is the European PGA Tour, and then played really well his last tournament before coming back to school this year, which was the Austrian Open. He shot 14 under par, and finished in the top 15 or whatever in a big tournament. And then just consistently finds a way to shoot under par, even if he doesn't have his best ball striking. And at Trinity Forest last week, he finally hit the ball really well, especially with his irons. And when he's hitting his irons well, the guy putts really good. He's probably the best putter on our team. He's going to be right there in contention to win, and that's what he did. He unfortunately got beat in the playoff. A guy made a 40-foot putt on the second playoff hole for birdie to beat him. So he didn't lose the playoff, but very encouraging for Lukas to be able to hit the ball as well as he did and to compete the way he did and lead the team to a victory there.
Daniel Zou, freshman of the year last year in the American Conference, and you're telling me on track to become the all-time career stroke average leader at Rice. What has he done? Tell us a little bit about his backstory.
Yeah, Daniel is exceptionally talented. Hits the ball. He could be a tour player now with the way he strikes the golf ball. He's elite in his ball striking, one of the best drivers of the golf ball I've ever seen. I've coached some guys that hit the ball amazing in my almost 20 years of coaching, and Daniel is at the top of that list. He had a great freshman year, was very consistent, shot a lot of rounds at par or better, and finished the year at, I think, even par or maybe a couple under for the year last year as freshman of the year in the American Athletic Conference. And all-conference player, qualified for regionals, and played pretty well at regionals in Washington last year. Didn't make it to nationals. This year he's come in and he's been just really picking up where he left off. If you ask him, he hasn't played as well as he thinks he should play, which is good. He's driven. He definitely feels like he's got some better golf ahead of him. But most of the time when guys come in, they at least take a semester or maybe even a year to figure it out, because it's a tough transition. You're on your own. You're having to figure out a lot of things on your own. Obviously, the coaches are there to help guide you. But usually you average like 73, 74, so you shoot a lot of over par rounds your first couple of years, kind of like Lukas did. But Daniel has just been, as a freshman, he was really consistently shooting under par, sometimes 10 to 15 under par as a freshman. And then this year he's been par or better most of his rounds. And so he's under par for his career at Rice, which no one's ever done. Even the guys, I think Rogov Chug, who just graduated, is our all-time stroke average leader at 72 and some change. He was 109 over par for his career at Rice, and Daniel is about 10 under par for his career at Rice, somewhere around there. So if he can continue that on, that'll set a pretty high standard for someone to come in and play 4 years of college golf at Rice.
Even, I know we'll get to the staff in a second, but even Michael Whitehead.
Wow. Michael was the career stroke average leader before Rogov broke that record last year.
Tell us the unique story, and notes falling down here, Mr. Daly. You were telling me beforehand, you told me some of it. I was like, save it.
Yeah.
Tell me about him and his unique, I guess, recruiting story you had here.
So Henry Daly, no relation to Long John Daly. But Henry joined us in the fall of 2022 and came in a lot like Daniel Zou and played exceptional golf as a freshman at Rice. And then the nature of our new world in college athletics, he wanted to go on the transfer portal and see if he could get to a bigger program. Ended up at Virginia and was there for a couple years and realized that, with this new roster limits change and everything, a lot of guys ended up on the transfer portal. And so we had a spot available for a transfer this year. And whenever whenever Henry got on the transfer portal, we wanted him back. The truth is we never wanted him to leave.
Of course. Yeah.
And me personally, I've been waiting for him to get on the transfer portal. And when he finally did, I called him and said, hey, we'd love to have you back. And so he accepted the offer to come back, and we're really thankful to have him back. And he's just come right in and been a leader on the team. He has a strong voice in meetings and with the group, and just has come in. And he already had some friends, like he came in with Lukas, Boandal, and Davis Bird, who are seniors on the team this year. And, it's been really awesome to see him come back in and just form those friendships with the team and the relationships. And really, one of the best parts of our program right now is our guys have a strong bond. Like, they are family, they're brothers, they love each other, they work hard, they compete against each other. And I think that's a big tool that you need to have in your toolbox if you want to be a championship program. And so we just have a great group of guys.
A little bit more on you and your backstory. 15th season at Rice, as you were saying earlier. Southern Miss guy. I know my way around Hattiesburg a bit. I've been to Mugshots a few times and had a good baseball rivalry there with Southern Miss in the past. But just what got you in to coaching? Tell us a little bit about your playing career and the path to Rice. I know it's been 15 years since then, but just a little bit of the Just.and Emil story here.
Well, yeah, thanks for asking. You know, my playing career got me into coaching. So I played 4 years at Southern Miss. All I wanted to do was play professional golf. And so whenever I graduated, I went for it and was fortunate to build some really good relationships in college golf in my time playing at Southern Miss. And so in 2005, after Hurricane Katrina kind of devastated the Mississippi Gulf Coast where I was from and lived, I went out and played professionally because there wasn't a lot of work in the pro golf business down there at a Windance Country Club where I was the assistant pro. And so I was like, I'm going to go play because that was my dream. And so I played a full summer of mini tour golf and had a little bit of success, but realized that staying in dumpy hotels and missing cuts by one and wasn't really for me. And so I went to Q school in 2005 and shot a bunch of 74s and 75s, which doesn't cut it in professional golf. But I ran into Tom Shaw, who was the Tulane golf coach at the time for the men's program when they had a men's program at Tulane. And I said, hey, Tom, this pro golf thing isn't working out. Do you need an assistant coach at Tulane? And he said, we don't have an assistant coach. We're a little incognito because of Hurricane Katrina, but I'll keep you in mind if something opens up. About 6 months passed, and he was hired as the head golf coach at Vanderbilt in Nashville. And he didn't know anyone else to call but this guy who had just pleaded with him to be his assistant coach at Tulane. So he called me and said, hey, would you like to come to Nashville and be my assistant coach? And I thought about it for a few minutes, and I was like, absolutely, I'm moving to Nashville. So
that long, huh?
Yeah. So I got to. So I started coaching in 2006 at Vanderbilt for Tom as his assistant coach, and was lucky to coach some great players like Luke List, John Curran. It was an amazing experience. My wife is from Nashville. We met while I was coaching up there, and we got married in 2010. And about a year after we got married, the Rice job came open, and I'd heard a lot about Rice. I knew the coach that had just left, and we were friends. And he just told me it's a great job, and so thankfully the Lord willed that I got the job, and we've been here ever since. We have 3 children, all born in Houston. My daughter's 12, and my 2 boys are 10 and 8 years old, and we've loved it ever since we've been here.
Yeah, we say all the time on the broadcast, you listen to, I know a lot, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And
absolutely. And
we're glad to have you here as long as we've had it. Tell us about your staff, and just a coach is only as good as the assistants under them, coaches tell me in the past. And, oh, yeah, by the way, you have one of the best players in school history, as you referenced earlier, Michael Whitehead, also helping out the guys. It has to be a good relation and a card to play when you have one of the best players in school history.
Yeah. Well, I've been fortunate to have many great assistant coaches. I was thinking about this morning, Clay Bounds was an assistant for me. He's now the head coach at Troy University. They made the national championship last year at Troy, his first time as being a head coach. James Lee was my assistant up until last spring, and he's now the lead instructor at River Oaks Country Club. And I've had, Michael Whitehead was my assistant in 2019, 2020, whenever the shutdown happened. And he was a phenomenal assistant for me and has done really well now as a private instructor and also a fitness trainer here, specifically for golf in Houston, and probably the best combination of golf instruction and golf fitness training in town, and a tremendous resource for our program. For him to be, he helps us part-time as our player development coach, and has made a huge impact on our team, especially the last year when he started working with us as a part-time coach. I'd be really thankful for our new assistant coach, Harrison Heinlein, who played for me, graduated in 2022, and then had a COVID year, played at Texas State for a year, and then coached with them up until last spring. So got some tremendous experience under a coach I really respect, Shane Howell at Texas State. And Harrison has come in right away and made a tremendous impact on our team. Just his golf knowledge and his ability on the player development side, and how much confidence he has in the things that he says, and how he helps lead our team, in practice and at tournaments. He's just done a really, really good job, and so yeah, it's just you're only as good as your staff, and I've been fortunate to have some great assistant coaches over the years. Daniel Jansen was another assistant that I had for a year, and we just the good thing about our program is as staff comes in, they usually move on to a better job, and so we're doing something right when it comes to developing our staff and our coaches and our players.
Tell us about the rest of the season. Now you have one more tournament left in this fall slate, correct? But it's unique in that, I guess, in a way other sports do it, but then the real big part of the season, not that this isn't important, comes in starting in February. So explain that breakup and kind of what you do in the time in between.
Yeah, after our last victory last week, the guys were, as we're sitting at Raising Cane's
with the slaw.
Yeah, with the slaw and some sweet tea and some fried chicken, the guys were like, "Coach, what do you think our ranking's going to be?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really know for sure. The ranking comes out October 15th, so this week we'll find out what we're ranked. But it really doesn't matter right now. We've played 4 tournaments. We've got 7 more tournaments to play. And really what matters for us is what do we do right now in the moment? Like, how do we get better today? And, if we're focusing on, 2 tournaments from now, or the spring schedule, or nationals or regionals or anything like that, then it's going to distract us from what we can do right now to get better. And so I'm like, guys, we'll be ranked whatever we're ranked on October 15th, but it really doesn't change what we're going to do on a daily basis. And I think they're all kind of realizing that, even though they're excited to see how we're ranked. And we actually received a vote for the top 25 coaches poll recently, which was an exciting thing for our program, because I don't know if we've ever had a vote like that before, and just shows where we're headed as a program. But what's most important right now is not a tournament that we play. It's actually the tournament that we have coming up, and how do we prepare for that, but not what we play in February, March, or April, or even May and June. It's really, how do we prepare to play well in this coming tournament at South Alabama, Steelwood Country Club, and finish out the fall in a big way.
Hey, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this quick hit. As you, Coach, listens to the broadcast on football right behind us here, you might have heard us talking about they're trying to get me back into the game. I was a hack. No athletic ability, Coach, but give me 1 or 2 tips that I can show Jason. He thinks he's good, but he's not. Nate thinks he's good, but he's not. I'm a par 3 guy, Coach. I admit it. I know my strengths and weaknesses. I can hit it. I'll grip it and rip it, Coach. Give me a tip. Give me something that I can use. And this will be a test to see if they listen. What can I do to improve my game? And anybody out there, I know we have a lot better golfers out there, but what can I do? What can we do to improve it? Just play?
I would say if you can hit it, and you can hit it every time, and you can hit it far, then find a shot you can hit in the fairway, because you can't hit the green and have a birdie putt if you're not in play off the tee. And so learning to, whatever it takes, my players all exceptionally hit it far. We've got guys, probably our team, if I had to put an average on driving distance, our guys would average over 300 off the tee. And so that's really exciting that you can hit it that far, but if you can't control it, then it's going to be really hard for you to score. So, if you can hit the ball and hit it pretty hard, then find a way to put it in the fairway, and then it's not as hard to get it on the green from there. But if you're in the trees, you're in trouble. So,
just run and chase
put
it,
the ball
pitch
in play.
and poke. Yeah,
you got to be in position to score well in golf. If you're in the fairway, you're gonna have a real good chance to hit the green. You're gonna have a real good chance for birdie, and that's how you score. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science, but we can help you out. We can get you straightened out there.
All right, Jason. All right, Nate, if you're listening. But thank you so much for doing this. You got a great leader here at Rice, and really appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll have more of these. Appreciate it.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Rice Fight. Just.and Emil, Rice men's golf coach. Stay tuned. More coming up. Actually, that wraps the show. See, Coach got me all confuzzled here. That wraps the show here. Rice Unfiltered. We're enjoying the bye week here in football. We'll be back. You can catch all the episodes Apple, Spotify. Have a great rest of this day or night. God bless. Go Owls. Rice Fight. We'll talk to you on the next edition of the Rice Unfiltered podcast.